Welcome to our webinar that we're having this morning with our group, the Scott Furman Group, and I'm thrilled that we have with us ShowHomes of the Main Line, which is a company that does incredible job doing home staging. I'd like to introduce you briefly to my group. I don't know how it's situated on your screen, but to my bottom right, we have Brian Matthews. Brian has been with us for since 2019, and Brian works a lot with home buyers and does a great job. We get rave reviews on Brian. Everybody loves Brian, and what's not to like. And then Tracy, to my left, Tracy works with us and the group, providing, outstanding service to our clients. She is basically my right arm, sometimes my left arm, and arranges everything that you see that happens from the time, actually before we get started on these ventures till after, and hopefully for years and years to come. As many of you know, I'm now in my 41st year in the business, and we kind of have a unique approach, I think, to the way that we market property, in that we tend to do a lot of work on the front end, getting the properties ready for the market, which sometimes can be a little time consuming depending on what's needed to get done. But we are strong proponents on having homes home inspected before they get to the market, up-to-date wood reports and radon reports, and any other inspection reports that may apply. Sometimes we have homes with well water and septic and whatnot. But today, the main focus of what we're talking about is home staging, which is probably, of all the things that we do in preparing a home for the market, I think is probably the single most important aspect, because it has the biggest financial return on the bottom line for our home sellers that we represent. We've been working with ShowHomes of the Main Line, and I wanted to introduce you to Ali Piccolomini, if I pronounced that correctly, and Monica Estes, who have done just amazing work for us. And I'm gonna turn the floor over to Ali and Monica, so if perhaps they'll give us a little background on themselves so we can get a better understanding of this whole process.
Sure. So I'm Monica, and this is Ali, and we are a home staging company. We offer a number of products that I think are a good investment for homeowners, whether they're buying or selling their property, and we'll get into those a bit later. But Ali and I are related. Ali is my niece, and my background is been a long history in corporate finance and real estate. So I spent about 20 or 30 years in the corporate finance world, and but always interested in real estate. Have an undergraduate degree in real estate from the University of Arizona, and I focus almost entirely on operations, logistics, capital, and a lot of the financial related aspects of staging as an investment. And Ali was relocating back to the area. She went to High Point and studied interior design. And so I'm going to turn it over to her to let her talk about her background.
Sure. So I spent the
few years outside of college working for a small furnishing manufacturer in High Point, North Carolina, and moved back to the area. And Monica and I had always discussed doing something with design, and we felt like we could kind of mend our two passions with real estate and design, and started Show Homes in 2014, and just having a good time. We love this area. There's so many different types of homes, different architecture, and so we're really excited to be part of the mainline community.
So Scott, I don't know if you want to start talking about the wonderful cabin house that we had listed. I think it's one of the greatest examples of what Show Homes has done for us recently.
I would. Can you still see me? Because my screen has kind of gone out on me here.
Yes.
Okay. Basically, this is a good example of what we do. I had a client, and he was a colonel at Valley Forge Military Academy, and I was involved in representing him on the purchase of this home over 25 years ago. Since he has since retired, and he moved out of his home. He was in a retirement community. And we were dealing basically with one of his friends who was handling everything from Maryland. So we got this property, and I went over to take a look at it, and it needed quite a bit of work. It's a little cabin, kind of known as the cabin house, which was part of the Martin's Dam Swim Club. We believe it was a summer home or cottage. It's nestled into the bottom of a hill, which is really like a mountain. And when you walk around this property, there's basically no yard because it's all mountain. There's about a 2-foot area to walk in around 3 sides of the property. Very steep. That area was designed to divert water away from the property. It was full of leaves that looked like they hadn't been removed in years. There was a large, when I say large, I mean like amazingly large tree that had fallen and gone through the roof and pushed out the back wall of the house and the windows by about 2 or 3 feet.
Wow.
There were trees that had fallen down on the mountain that were laying down, and they had fallen in a position that if they slid down the mountain, they would have probably taken the house out. They were tied with ropes to their stumps. The home was very dark. We arranged to have all of this work done. The tree was removed from the roof was repaired, the windows were replaced. The trees that were down on the mountain were cut up and removed. There were 4 large dumpsters just to clear away what was around the outside of the property.
You can see the slideshow on the screen, correct?
I can't see that. I would love to know how I can get back to the window. Let's see here. Oh, wait a minute. Here we go. Ah, perfect. Thank you, Tracy.
You're welcome.
I don't know what you did, but I'm back online. So the photograph we're looking at right now is the front porch, and the property was cleaned with something called soft wash, which is a sodium chloride that is sprayed on the property. It sits for about I don't know, 15 minutes or so, and it's hosed off. It is not power washing. The ceiling of that porch was black before, and I thought we were going to have to paint it, and it turned out just beautifully. It came back to life. the decking on the porch was painted. I don't know if the picture I'm looking at right now is of the, I believe that might have been before it was painted.
Yes, this is the before.
This is the before, okay. And the interior of the house was professionally cleaned. All the contents were removed from the property. All of this work was being done. Anything that came up in the pre-home inspection was corrected. So we get to the point where the house is now starting to look like something. And here you can see the front porch, and you can see how rustic a home this is. That's actually a tree that's holding up the front porch. They're real logs around this front porch area. So it's starting now to take shape. We needed to bring the warmth and the light back into this property. It was so dark with dark woods and heavy shade around the property. And we basically reached out to Allie and Monica, and they came out and gave us and the homeowner a proposal on what they were going to do to this property to, you know, to try to maximize what we were trying to accomplish here. Allie and Monica, could you give a little bit of your thoughts on what we did?
Sure. So I went to the property myself initially, and when I drove up, I was quite shocked at the property that I was about to see. I'd never seen anything like it. I was actually a little terrified to even go in by myself. So I ended up FaceTiming Monica and said, "Look at this house. I've never seen anything like this." It was very dark and drab, and obviously lacking really color, personality.
I had the rustic vibe going down.
Yeah, definitely very rustic. Also, it's a very small footprint. So going in, looking at it, it would be difficult for a buyer to understand how you could place furniture in this such a small space. So initially we were a little bit terrified of the space, but at the end, I think we ended up with a really great result for the seller.
That's like hard to believe that's the same room.
It is.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
could you tell everybody, it's the little things I get a kick out of. The box that's sitting there with the wicker container with the scarf. Could you just describe to everybody what was in there?
so I don't know if you noticed in the before photo, but this gentleman had a very interesting and thorough telecommunication system going. So there were so many phone wires, cable wires, cat wires. He had cameras set up everywhere. You could tell. I mean, I think I instinctively understood it was a military person or a military type person who had lived there just based on the infrastructure. But all those wires kind of dead ended in that corner where that wicker basket is. We just took them, sorted through them, tied them up, put them in the basket, and then the throw and the pillow went on top to just kind of hide all of it because it was distracting, you know, from the look of the room. But this, you know, those little details, Scott, I think are an important part of our particular style of staging. We have always been very focused on the execution of art, accessories, and the soft goods and, you know, glassware, dinnerware, things like that, that people really gravitate toward creating an emotional bond. So even before COVID, everything was sanitized, steamed, fresh, cleaned by hand. All the glassware is cleaned so that it sparkles, because it all comes out not only in the in-person viewing of the property, but in these photos that are so important. You literally can see the shine, in our opinion, on
you
those things.
One thing you said to me, and I'm skipping around a little bit, I hope it's okay, but one thing you said to me before, which stuck in my mind, was something about scale. And this particular home being so small, could you talk a little bit about scale?
Mhm. Sure. So when we talk about scale, it might necessarily be it's a small space. It could be a space that has it's 2 stories, and so we're trying to take up some of the volume in the space. There's all different things that we can talk about when we're discussing scale. This particular home for the living space, as you saw, it was very small. So it's important that we have a smaller scale sofa so someone can obviously see that you would be able to entertain in this space. And we also use those smaller ottomans that people would be able to visualize as using for additional seating. In some cases, we will use glass coffee tables so that when you look at the space visually, it doesn't take up as much of the square footage. So we definitely use that to our advantage, especially in these smaller homes.
Right, but scale also is important when you're talking about homes that feature a large volume of rooms. So you're going to want to mirror that with, some taller, more hefty, not necessarily any larger, but certainly visually more impactful things to take up a room. So staging is really a confluence of science and art. There is a science to staging, which is different than interior design. And in this particular photo, you'll notice that we added window treatments to the room there. Typically, especially in homes that we're trying to bring in a lot of light, we would not want window treatments. We would ask for them to be removed or taken down. But in this case, we felt like there were a lot of hard edges in this space, so we added that for softness. And we think the effect, we achieved the effect that we were going for. In addition, in this particular home, because lighting was an issue, we changed out the bulbs. So that, in terms of a tip or a trick for people, is to play around with the different incandescent and LED options that are available and try them out in the lighting in your space. Take a photo on your phone, take a look at how the light reflects color on the goods that you have in the home or in the room. So is it brighter? Does it go blue? Is it a colder? Are you trying to warm it up? You might want to go to the 2700 type number on your LED versus if you're looking for that cooler touch, the grays and everything, pulling the grays and the blues out, you might want to go into the 3000 level LED. And you might want less light, we might want more light. It just depends on the space.
But by the way, I wanted to just add, because we were talking about space, this is a 2-bedroom, 1.5 bath home that has just over 1,000 square feet. So it's a very small single family home. It's more in line with what maybe a 2-bedroom condo might be.
Should we show them the kitchen?
Yeah, because I think the kitchen really, this space really became functional in my view with what Allie designed here. Just adding adequate seating so you could, a family of 4 could live in this home. It would be tight, but the way she designed it, the staging, you could see, there's dining seating, you had bar seating in front of the window. The kitchen in the L shape, it's spacious enough to do whatever you need to do to prepare a meal. And even through that back doorway was a laundry, separate laundry area and a mudroom area that she created to show people how to use every bit of the floor plan. And I think
one thing that struck me as really interesting, and I think you can say, but you got a phone call from the buyer that bought this property, and I believe they bought some of the furniture.
Yes, they did. They purchased both of the sofas that we put in the home and a lot of just pillows and accessories that we had installed. And this room, particularly going back to the kitchen, was very important because that wood door there that you see is actually where you enter the home. And so we want to capture the buyer's attention right when they walk in the door. So it was important that this space feel as open as possible in a 1,000 square foot home. immediately you can see there's easy seating for 6 right away. So it's important that we can showcase that you can still entertain even in a small space.
Right.
This space, I'll just say the picture to the left had a tree through it when I first went there, and all of those beams were knocked down. And that window to the right in this left side photograph, there's 2 windows, I believe, on that side, were pushed out and they were laying on the lower roof below.
Wow.
That was what happened. So all that had to be restored before we went into the marketplace. Wow.
Leaves you speechless.
Yeah, so I think also too, part of the important focus on staging is that we're highlighting the features of the home. So I don't even know that necessarily you would have noticed that we have these horizontal beams and that we have the vaulted ceiling both in the master bedroom and in the living room. It just felt like you're just staring at the floor and kind of the wood walls, but we wanted to make sure that people understood that you're buying the home at the end of the day. The furniture will leave, but we need to sell the home and sell the features of the home. Exactly.
Right. So those beams and the vaulted ceiling are appealing. I mean, this home really embraces the rustic look and feel. If you enjoy that aspect of design, this is the home for you. And we wanted to make sure that people could understand that it's still livable. Yeah, I keep going. So where's that
sitting room?
Yeah.
Yeah, this area that we're looking at now, it's the main bedroom in this home has 2 areas. There's like a sitting room and a bedroom. Quite frankly, I didn't even know there was a sitting room. To me, there were just 2 rooms that they had I wasn't quite sure what they were. And then Allie and Monica like transformed this property into something. Again, this is the sitting room to the main bedroom.
Right.
And I think another important factor when we talk about staging, like Scott said, that he didn't even know what you would use this room for. And so suddenly now that we've put in upholstery and we've have a conversation area, it becomes another living space, which for a small space, it's a huge bonus to be able to have 2 living spaces in this home.
Right.
So that's really what we're trying to do with the staging, especially if you were to see that empty room when you were looking at the real estate photos online, it would be difficult to understand where am I in the home. And so now we've created this this second living space that really kind of jumps off the page when you're looking at the photos online.
Right, which is in today's world that those photos are.
How do you communicate the benefits of staging to a home seller?
Well, there are a couple of different ways. So we start first with helping them understand that part of the transformation that happens in the staging process, whether we're staging a vacant home or doing what we call a restyle and blending our things in with the homeowner's things, it's a way for it. Now the space has been defined by a third party and you begin emotionally, the seller can begin to disconnect from the property. And that can be an interesting transition for some people. So it's the first step toward that transition of moving on. And then we also talk about just the results that we get versus, the home that maybe doesn't benefit from a stager's input. So, our homes sell on average, we've been at this since 2014. So over that time period, on average of 60 days faster than the general market. 60 days of carrying cost on $1 million home in our area because of the property taxes alone, is going to be a significant expense. That's 1/6 of your annual utility and school tax bill. It could be as much as what you're paying for either in the staging or some of the sales commission costs that you're spending. So it can be a significant savings. And then in addition to that, we're seeing between 3 and 10% increase on the on the selling price, the offer price. People are getting either closer to what they've listed for in prior years. And then over the past 12 months, people were seeing multiple offers coming in and going for above list. That happened frequently within our portfolio. And so even in a market where things are moving quicker, it still makes sense to pay attention to, first and foremost, let me just say, and reiterate what Scott said earlier, making sure you know what your home needs in terms of repairs, making sure that if you have the budget, you're updating the paint, you're updating flooring or carpeting, and Scott can help you with that, but ShowHomes also offers that services. When ShowHomes does it for you, some of our realtors don't like to get involved in that, so they use us. We are the project manager, and we will manage every aspect of that from beginning to end. Those first impression, the photos and the first impression that a homeowner has, that is translate into money. That is money. And if you're not doing these things, then you're just acknowledging that you're leaving money on the table. And for some people who don't believe in this, or they're just not, there is, of course, people out there just not interested in doing this. They think it's a lot of effort. They don't want to go through all of this. And that's fine, but it's money that they're leaving on the table that then we'll switch into Brian's category. Now he's got buyers coming in. Maybe the home is rough around the edges. Again, we can come in, do a consultation and explain it needs paint. Really what's here is very usable. Let me explain to you what we think this home has in terms of its features. Because oftentimes that aesthetic can hold people back from really understanding, especially in this cabin house, that is a beautiful setting. I mean, maybe you don't have a yard, but it was very tranquil, peaceful, quiet. It was a respite on Radnor Chester Road. It was a respite from all of the stress of the lifestyle of the mainline living that we have in our lives.
Can you share a little bit with the audience on what the cost is to stage a property?
Sure. So the way that we go about the staging, I'm going to let Allie first talk about what she goes through and how the sort of the semantics of the process for the design and installation, and then I will talk about how we break down the pricing.
Okay, so I guess basically the first step when we're developing our staging plan is to obviously go to the home and evaluate what rooms we would be staging. So we would come through and take photos, and then we come back to our office and kind of go through each space and figure out what exactly we would be putting in each space. And from there, we basically come up with a number of the value of the inventory that we would be putting into the home, how much time we think it's going to take for the home to sell, what are our moving costs to move in and out of the home, and that will give us a price of what the overall staging would be. I'm going to let Monica discuss the structure, but I'll go through once we get through the proposal phase, what would happen next in our process. So we have an idea of obviously what we need in each space, and then I go through all of our inventory of what we have available and make selections based on the price point of the home, the style of the home. So price point becomes very important. We would not use the same inventory in a $300,000 home that we would use in a $2 million home. We have all different price points and styles that we work with. So that's very important when coming up with the staging plan to make the right selection that would appeal to the demographic that's going to be walking through your home. So we would, I spend a lot of time going through coming up with all of the furniture selections. Once those are finalized, we walk through our warehouse and pick all of the accessories, the art, the bedding, the pillows, and everything is done custom to every single home that we do. Usually that process is somewhere between, we think around 6 hours to just get to that process to get the truck loaded. And then once we get to the install phase, depending on the size of the property, it's usually anywhere from a half a day to a full day, depending on the size of the home and how much staging we're actually doing.
Yes.
And I'll let Monica discuss kind of the breakdown of the pricing.
And then when we do the install, it's usually 6 of us, a team of 6 people doing the installation. That's how we manage the timeline, because we do like to get the install done in a day. Typically, we do our installs on Wednesdays because then the photography can happen on Thursday and the home can go live on Friday. That tends to work well with all the agents and homeowners that we work with. So when we price the property, after Allie's gone through and created a list of the, she goes through and does selections on furniture, art, and accessories. We have an inventory system that allows us to know what things cost. So we really do this from a cost perspective. How much furniture, art, and accessories are we installing in the home? That has an amount. For a vacant home, the pricing works as it's a single price. Whether we're there for 2 days or 200 days, the price does not change. And so typically we install for a minimum of about 45 days because that allows for the home to go live, get through the contingent, get an offer, get through contingencies, appraisals, all that. And we wait for all that to clear before we are scheduling the move out. So we don't move out of a home until it's hit the pending status. So that's one thing. The other thing that's important about we think is an important feature of what we offer for our vacant staging pricing is it's a single price that's collected with an upfront fee of about a third of the cost. So if the staging costs overall say are, I'm just going to use $6,000 because that is easy math for me. If it's $6,000, it's probably going to be in the neighborhood of $1,500 in advance. And then the remainder, $4,500, is due at closing. And we work with the settlement agent and the agents to get that invoice to the closing table. And then they just cut us a check. It's clean and easy for everyone. Everybody gets paid all at the same time. It's a way for us when we were developing this product for us to say and feel good about the fact that we are in this with you. We think that we are helping you sell your home. And so we're there with you, working through the timeline that it takes to get you the price you're looking for.
Monica, on this Radnor Road property, can you share with our audience today what it costs to stage that properity?
I'm going to let Allie's young brain answer that one.
So the total cost for the staging on this property was $29.95. So I believe it was around $1,000 or $1,200.
So under $3,000 to stage the property, and then just to people understand, you collected a fee to move in, which was a third of it. So say it was
$1,000
for someone to move in, and then if I recall, that was on the settlement sheet. So the seller actually didn't pay for the staging until the property went to settlement, and it was paid out of the proceeds.
Correct.
And I want to share with people because it really doesn't matter whether you're talking about a small home, a large home, a condominium. It's that I think that what the result is the same to me. This particular home, initially when I went in, I thought it was going to sell for about $300,000, and we went through everything. Monica and Allie made it just beautiful. And we ended up listing the property at $350,000. So we were already $50,000 above where we thought we were going to be with it. And we ended up with, after about 6 days, we ended up with multiple offers on the property, and the property sold for $362,000. So we were $12,000 over the asking price and $62,000 over the original price we thought we were going to get for it. So I am a strong proponent of staging. I've seen this happen so many times. There's nothing there, there's no way anybody could ever convince me that someone wasn't going to get substantially more for their home by doing the staging. What's difficult for me sometimes with certain people is to articulate exactly that benefit. It's hard to show them, other than through examples of properties that we've sold where we've had the same type of experience. Brian, I just want to interject. How do you, like, with your buyer clients, how do you perceive, or how does it work when you see properties that are staged or have been, prepared or maybe not even prepared or not prepared?
Well, my buyer clients, they're all like individual snowflakes. Everyone's needs are different. And I think these are not, while many people are watching TV shows about design and magazines, how to, style your home, I think you only have precious time to really convince someone that this house is for you. So when you see a property that's vacant with no furniture or anything out, you're asking the buyer in their mind to style on the spot. And I find that the people that are couples or family members will be arguing in a space. Will that fit my, sectional couch? Oh no, I don't think it will, in this back and forth. And it's almost an argument about what can happen in this space. And so I think eliminating those discussions that might lead to a negative result versus, okay, well, that would fit that space. Yes, that is similar to either what we had in our mind, what we have at home. And then properties that might already have existing furniture from the seller, sometimes it takes you out of what you would see for yourself as a design, as a style. And so I think by already having some style put in there helps to, basically feel out the space by buyers who might not have a clear sense of what they could do.
And I guess I have a question for Allie and Monica. What do you do when you go into a property and there's so much stuff and there's, I don't know, there's just clutter and there's
an accumulation of memories.
Yeah, and walls that, need to be painted and worn carpeting and, there's just all this type of work that needs to get done.
So I'm going to start, but then I'm going to segue to Allie. I think it's important to understand that she and I are a different demographic, and that is what I think has made our partnership so strong. She is the demographic of the buyer for the most part, and I am the demographic of the seller. And our life experiences have brought us to a place where we can be very empathetic with the sellers. That's oftentimes why we go together to view a property, especially if we're meeting directly with the homeowner and it's going to be a restyle situation and they've got their things, because only a person who lived through the spending a car's worth value of money on window treatments that we're asking to come down. And I mean, we just spoke to a homeowner who had the most beautiful mural painted in her dining room. The artist, I don't know who it was, it was the most beautiful I've ever seen. And I know that was big money when she had it done. And we had to tell her that it would be better for her to paint it over in order to sell her home for more, so that someone could see how they might live with it, only because it's not a popular thing and it didn't translate in the photographs well. But those are challenging conversations to have with people about how to edit their things. And we're pretty gentle about it, and at least are empathetic to, what it would, that it's not a no effort situation, and it also can be quite painful. Then we have that conversation about how it's a transition. And once those things get changed, you'll see how your emotional connection lessens with the house. And then Allie, let her talk about how she creates an emotional bond for the buyer to come in.
So in this situation, it's in an owner-occupied home where we're coming through and doing a consultation. We would go room by room and discuss our suggestions on how we could improve this space. And we try and give kind of higher priority and lower priority items, whether that be painting or removing furniture. There are some things that obviously we could have it all, we would love it. But we try and kind of prioritize things for the homeowner and let them ultimately make the decision on how they'd like to
invest their money.
Exactly.
Allie, could you just give a brief background on your background in design?
Yeah, so I went to High Point University for interior design. And then I was with a small furniture manufacturer, and then started Show Homes. I guess I was, what, 24 years
You
old.
were 24. We always joked that she wasn't
Yeah.
old enough to rent a car, but she was old enough to start a company.
Yeah. So I've just seen over the years how going through so many different homes that at the end of the day, it's still the same formula, and we're trying to sell the features of your home. Whether it's we're trying to distract because you're on a busy road, or we're trying to highlight the amazing view that you have, or a focal point of the room, it's really coming down to we're selling the bones, and that's what we need to focus on. And when we kind of strip away some of those layers, that allows the buyer to see the home for what it is and to be able to envision themselves in the space.
Right, and that emotional connection is important. But then there's a realistic limit of what the seller can and will and should do. So getting back to Brian's point that he was making about buyer objections, I mean, what we're really trying to do is, one, make sure that the home is very photogenic at the end of the day, because that is the first showing. And then also eliminate as many of the objections as we can with the budget constraints that we're faced with. So we had a beautiful home in Malvern Hunt Country that it had been redone. The kitchen was fantastic. That all the renovation work that they had done was beautiful, but they had decided to go with an older style paint combination where they had darker trim and lighter walls. And it's not the look of today, but at the end of the day, you're talking about a $40,000 repaint, and it just isn't practical. So, we chose the furniture and accessories that embraced that feature of the home, because we do want to appeal to the most buyers, but we want to make sure that, your home is showing well to a certain, the look. I mean, not everyone's coming to Malvern Hunt Country to buy a house. It's a certain look.
I know recently we have a property coming on the market in Villanova, a large home. It's about 6,000 square feet. It had been rented for the past 2 years, and the owner was very anxious to get this property to market. So we started our process. We had exterior work done on the property. The whole outside of the exterior was soft washed. The beds were mulched. This was all being done I believe in December. And windows were washed, and then the tenant, due to the pandemic, decided they didn't really want people coming into the property. We had already taken the photography with their furniture in it, thinking that was going to be a smart move. And then the tenant moved out and started to tell me that she replaced all the light fixtures and put the owner's light fixtures back throughout the whole house. And I'm thinking, like, oh, great. Now we've got photos that have light fixtures that are no longer there. And we've got a vacant house. So we decided to go ahead, and Monica and Allie went out and have given the homeowner a proposal to stage the property that I, quite frankly, think is very reasonable. And we're likely going to be moving forward with that. And I will have the photography done over again because for two reasons. One, the light fixtures, and two, that furniture that's in those photos is no longer in the house. And I also think it's going to look a heck of a lot nicer with your beautiful furniture than with what is in it.
Yeah.
And I think it's in my seller client's best interest that I do that.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, it's a well-constructed home with very interesting features that I think would be quite appealing to a number of buyers. It's in a great location. So a lot of good features about the home that we can highlight.
Yeah, and I enjoy what you do because I'm into home decor and stuff, and I love I'm not a stager, so that's not my role in this, but I enjoy this an awful lot. One thing that, when we spoke before, you started to describe this to me, and I was really blown away, and I think I might have asked you twice because I wasn't quite sure I heard the answer correctly, but I asked you a couple of questions. One is I asked you what, how many homes could you stage at one time? So, and you told me, and then the other question I asked you was, can you walk me through your warehouse? Just not physically, but just to give me a sense of what this is about. Like, is this stuff you keep like in the trunk of your car? Do you have like a garage that you have, like a one-car garage that you keep some pillows and some shams and some tables in, or like what are your capabilities? I mean, that was basically what I was trying to understand, and I was hoping you could share that with people, because it was something that I was very pleasantly surprised to hear about.
So you want to talk about this?
Sure.
Warehouse?
So
Allie
we-
has a lot of passion about this.
Yeah, I'm the queen of organization. So we have about 30 to 35 homes worth of inventory, like I touched on before, all different price points and styles. We have a 5,000 square foot warehouse. The outside portion is where we have all of our furniture and accessories. So everything is basically categorized by type. So we have all of our beds together, all of the mattresses, the tables with the table legs, all of the upholstery is together. And then dining and end tables and coffee tables are together. And then on the perimeter, we have all of our accessories. So very much like when you walk into Home Goods, it's done by category. So we have all of our dining, all of our dishes and glassware together, candles, centerpieces, trays, pottery pieces, all of our greenery, and everything is very organized. So it makes it a lot more efficient and easier for us to pull when we're walking through doing a design plan. We also have a room filled with all of our art and lamps. All of the lamps, the pairs are together, the singles are together, the art is kind of done by size. Again, making it very easy for us. And then we also have a pillow room that has all of our inserts and bedding and throw pillows. So spent a lot of time and effort to just make it very easy for us to go through the selection process.
So then in addition to that, each of those items is inventoried, and the cost is entered into a system so that we are both, so we each bring a little bit different organization to the process. Mine is usually around logistics and the money piece, the investment and the return on investment. And Allie is looking at it from can I find it quickly? Can I, how do I match things? How do I care for things? How do I launder things like that? But one of the things that we found when we first started with our warehouse location was that we also work with people who are very visual. So like when we do a property, we have a photo of every single piece that we have. I don't know if you can see this, not very well. But,
yeah.
We take it of, okay, so here's this chest. This chest is in this binder because it's in this home. So that way, when we know we've installed everything that we originally planned to install, and then we hand this binder to our warehouse manager. On the install part, he goes around and pulls all the pieces so the movers can pack the truck. We have a 26-foot box truck that we deliver everything in. And then when we're coming out, then it's inventory. He knows exactly what's supposed to come out of the home. Then in addition, when, as Scott had mentioned, sometimes we'll have a buyer client who wants to purchase things. We'll know, all right, well, we know what's in the home. All we have to do is take the number, look in our inventory system and find out, okay, here was the cost. Here's what here's how long we've had it. Here's all the places it's been and any comment about the piece. And that's how we develop our price list for people who are interested in buying the item. And sometimes we have things that we won't sell because we just say, it's been in 8 houses and it works. It works for us, but it won't work for you because it's not going to be as good a quality as you would want. But if you love it so much, we'll source it for you. You can have it new.
How do you decide what to buy? How do you keep up with what's happening in the way of, home furnishings and accessories?
Well, obviously over the years we've made some mistakes.
Sure.
So we have definitely learned from our mistakes, and we when we go through and we're doing our design plan, we have a job cost. So we basically have a standard price of what we would purchase for an item. So let's say our standard price for an occasional chair would be $400. Well, we know that if we can find something that has the look and feel that we want, it costs $250, then that's a deal for us.
So
we-
we'll buy 6.
Right, so we've come up with kind of standard pricing, so that way we know when we see something that we like, is it a good value because we have this,
Yeah, because we've set a standard for what it's quote unquote worth to us. Same thing with sofas. And styles change. In the short time we've been doing this from 2014 now, so this is starting our 8th year. The look and style of homes has changed so dramatically. It is quite shocking. So that most of the inventory that we had from the beginning is not with us any longer. One of the things we did mention, I think to Scott earlier, was we will and have had these warehouse sales, because once a year we'll go through and say, okay, we're gonna try and cull through about 1/3 of what we own, and we do, and they're fire sale prices, because we just want to move it off our plate and bring in some new things. And at that time too, we'll do an open house on the warehouse so people can kind of take a tour, because I think a lot of people are just very curious about what a staging company is and does. And we are a full service custom stager. So we have a lot of luxury high-end pieces in our inventory, which is not exactly typical. A lot of the smaller shops will be, like you described, a person who has maybe a small storage unit or works out of the basement of their home. They have they might have pillows, art, and accessories, but they rent the furniture. But we just think that that's not quite the look and feel of the buyers and sellers in our market.
It's interesting. I think you've taken away all the concerns that I think a home seller would have in staging their home. I mean, you've made it affordable. You're not charging them, a monthly fee for furniture or some crazy amount that goes on, and they can keep the furniture in the house until the house is sold and the contingencies are met.
Right.
I mean, it's almost, there's no downside. I don't see any downside to this at all. One thing that
there is no downside.
Yeah, you've taken it all away. And the other thing too is that you own your truck. I mean, you've got this beautiful truck. It's huge. I don't know, how many feet is that truck?
26-foot box truck.
I mean, it's got your name and your logo and everything on the truck. I wish we had a picture of it. It's very impressive. Whenever I go by and I see this truck, in someone's property going where you're doing your staging, it always puts a smile on my face. So it's great.
We love that truck. It's a little thing, but I
love that truck too.
And also like the guys that we have on our crew, they're the best. We invested heavily in them, and they are loyal to us, and they are awesome. And there is nothing that they can't do. I've seen them hoist things up to the 3rd floor from a window to get us something in. I mean, there's just nothing they wouldn't do for us. And we really.
How many homes can you stage on a Wednesday?
I think we have now limited ourselves to 4.
Okay.
homes.
And what kind of one thing, like one of the viewers sent me a question about like if the lead time, like if you're doing something, what kind of time do you need?
So I'd say, basically from start to finish, basically from viewing the property and getting our design plan to the actual install. A week is ideal, but sometimes we have less, just to kind of work through all of that process. But the actual install day, depending on how large the job is probably anywhere from 4 to 8 hours for the install.
Okay.
So it's pretty amazing in a couple hours that you can transform a home, have artwork up on the wall, everything's cleaned. It's a very dramatic
honestly,
transformation.
Scott, I really wish I had a camera in my hand with the look on your face when you walked into the cabin house after, because you would come in and we'd only been there for about an hour and a half, and it was pretty close to being done. And the other thing too, I think that you had mentioned to us that sort of impressed you, and it's just something that we just naturally do, is if we have a home and we feel it needs a certain look and we don't have that look in stock, we will source it. I mean, it has to be an important piece, but for the cabin house, it was that twin bed that went into the second bedroom.
Never forgot.
So important. It had to have a specific look, be a specific size, and we had something similar, but it was installed somewhere else. So we sourced it and installed it, you know, and I think our warehouse manager was assembling it when you were doing your.
Yeah, let me put this into so people understand. So anyhow, so the house is done, and I walked in and my jaw dropped because it was absolutely just spot on. It couldn't have been staged nicer. And the one room was missing a bed, and Monica said to me, yeah, she said, we're waiting on the bed, and I'm thinking, what do you mean you're waiting on the bed? And you said you sourced it, which I think I understand what that means, but I don't know if everybody else did. But basically what Monica is saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, is you went out into the marketplace and bought a bed, and it was being delivered either that day or the next day. I forget what you told me.
Yeah, next day.
And I was really impressed because it was, you know, and I also have noticed, I also had a client, you did another property recently for us, and they were looking at the proposal and they were saying, well, like, how do I know, like, I'm getting this, this, and this, and is it all going to be? And I said, look, I said, it just doesn't work like that. I said, sometimes it's a work in progress. So they'll go back to the warehouse and they'll realize that they needed some other piece of artwork or some accessories or whatever, or they want to switch out something that they thought was going to be a certain way, and they'll come back until it's right. So
Right.
they're like an artist, and they want this final look and of this home to be a certain way, and they don't stop until it's that way.
Right.
I mean, it's hard to explain that to a seller, and you can't put that in your proposal. It's not something you can figure out. It's something that's just happening as you're moving along, and you know, it's what differentiates you, one of the many things that differentiate you from all the other people that are doing this. And I really believe that in this industry, from what I've experienced, most of the people are doing this as like a part-time, you know, hobby, and it's not a career. And they don't have a fraction of the tools that you have at your disposal, from the people that are doing the delivery of the furniture, from the equipment to all the inventory to all the knowledge there's so many factors that are involved in this. It's just mind-boggling.
Right. And you know, and then if you also then consider about, okay, the financial impact. So we have contracts, which I know a lot of home stagers don't offer contracts, but we have contracts for people to sign that preserves everybody's interest. We have a $5 million umbrella liability policy, so that if like one of our pieces of furniture falls over onto somebody who's viewing the home, we're covered. You know, we make sure that we've got all of the necessary documentation on all of our workers. You know, we're like, everything is above board. It's all very quote unquote corporate in the background, but you know, it's a big investment for a lot of people. This is their primary residence. It can, even if it's 350,000, it can be 3.5 million. It's still a big investment at either price point. And you want to make sure that you're working with a partner who cares.
Tracy, Trace,
Yes.
are there any additional viewers that had any other questions? Some of the ones I had were sent to me. I didn't know if you had any others or anything.
Not at this time.
Okay. So in trying to know, I guess, to wrap things up, is there anything that anybody wanted to add that we didn't get a chance to cover?
I think so.
I feel good.
You know, I'll share, I don't know if Tracy's going to share this maybe at the end, but you're always welcome to come to our website. It's our name, www.showhomes.com/mainline. And you can view photos of our projects. We also have projects listed on Houzz, Houzz. if you search for Allie's name, the projects will come up so you can see, you can in those photos even see how we've transformed our look over time, but you can see the different price points that we've done and some of the different spaces that we've done. So if Tracy, if you haven't planned to do that, you're more than welcome to do that.
And what I was planning on doing is all the attendees, send them out a thank you email, and I'll make sure that they have your contact information, our contact information, and also just make sure that they had no additional questions for us.
Sure.
Great. Well, I want to thank everybody, for, participating today. I thought this was great. I had a great time myself. I always love this. This is something that I just enjoy. And thank you very much. And as my tagline says, deep personal relationships still matter in life. So everybody be safe out there. And again, take care. Thanks for attending.
Yes, thank
See
you.
ya.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Thank you.